Good evening. I am Dr. Erica Knuckles, Director of Learning, Engagement, and Partnerships, and welcome to the Westmoreland Museum of American Art's virtual programming. I would like to begin our program with a moment of acknowledgements. The Westmoreland Museum of American Art is situated upon the traditional lands of the Adena, Hopewell, Monongahela, Delaware, Shawnee, and Seneca Cayuga peoples. We honor all of the indigenous nations and their land with great gratitude and acknowledge the genocide and continuous displacement of indigenous peoples. We also acknowledge the enslaved Africans whose labor built this country during the colonial era and beyond. We acknowledge the harm inflicted upon the indigenous communities and people of color across the country, which guides and inspires our work as a museum. Before we get to our featured event, I want to encourage everyone to submit any questions they may have in the chat during the presentation and during the Q&A session that will follow. The Westmoreland Museum of American Art Artist in Residency program is made possible by generous support from the Pittsburgh Foundation. Launched in September 2020, the program features 4 to 6 artists annually and emphasizes the museum's commitment to engaging and supporting Black and marginalized artists, to promoting equity in the arts, and to sharing compelling and meaningful cultural experiences with the regional community. Each residency varies in length, depending on the individual needs and availability of the artist. During their residency, the artist resides in Greensburg and can utilize open studio space within the museum. Artists use the span of the residency to create, study, investigate, and reflect on their artistic practice, and are given full access to the collection and the archives, along with support from curators, educators, conservators, and other staff. Artists can use the residency as an opportunity to work on a new body of work or develop a new process, and are encouraged to engage with the museum's collection and community. Inaugural artists selected include Anquinique and D.S. Kinzel of Boom Concepts, and our current artist in residence, Gavin Benjamin. Gavin Benjamin's work investigates the intersection of culture, media, politics, fashion, and design, addressing questions that confront a man of color in America today. He states that my work reflects everything that I'm thinking. It includes everything that I love and everything that I'm challenged by. It's honest and curious and bright and thoughtful, and sometimes a little dark. It's all of the things that made me want to be a professional artist in the first place. Benjamin was born in Guyana, South America, and raised in Brooklyn, New York. He received his BFA from the School of Visual Arts in New York City, and during this time, he interned with legendary portrait photographer Arnold Newman. After school, he worked at agencies representing commercial and advertising photographers, prop stylists, and hair and makeup artists, and then went on to work as a freelance production coordinator photo editor with stints at Kenneth Cole Productions, Esquire Magazine, Hatchet Philipacci Media, and Good Housekeeping Magazine. I am so happy and honored to introduce Gavin Benjamin and his collaborators. Gavin. Welcome, Gavin, Pamela, and Benjamin. Now, I am going to go ahead and head backstage and let Gavin introduce his wonderful collaborators that are here this evening. So I will be back later to moderate the question and answer session. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. So Gavin, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. Shall we start with introductions? Pamela.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Ben,
Hi.
say hello.
Hi.
These are two of my many collaborators. Right now, we have just finished casting. Pamela basically introduced me to everyone in Greensburg area community, which was amazing people. Ben just came on. Ben is doing documenting just while we're working on the different parts of this this body of work, this collaboration. So we're going to get started with slide number one. What we've done is basically we're going to pretty much show. It's going to be pretty much a lot of slides, images, and we're going to talk about the images and we're talk about what's going on. And I'm just going to say, let's start. That's the Westmoreland from across the street from the apartment. There's an apartment that the Westmoreland has for artists, and that's the view. Next. And the images now that we're looking at is just Main Street in Greensburg around the Westmoreland. Yeah. Next. And that's Pamela and I with Ben in the back. We're going to the barber shop, I believe.
Oh.
It's okay. And now we're actually, here's an image of us at the church. Pamela, do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about it. This is one of the local churches in the area. There are about 4 other ones that I actually know about and have friends that actually go to those churches. And they were really thrilled about meeting Gavin and wanting to know more about his background and what exactly is he doing in Greensburg. And needless to say, they were engaged and they're excited and they're thrilled. They really are thrilled.
So what exactly did you tell them I'm doing in Greensburg, Pamela?
I told them a little bit about it. About the fact that that you are originally from New York, and you wanted to actually use the museum, use some of the art in the museum as inspiration, and to flip the narrative. A lot of my friends in Greensburg, they've expressed that they know the museum's there. They've seen it when they've gone to classes, as far as in junior high or high school. They've gone on trips and everything, but they expressed that they didn't see anything that remotely resembled them in a sense, that they could relate to as much. So this was an eye-opening for them. And this picture right here is friends of mine. This is Tara Gandy and her sons, and there's Jason Stevens there too, their father. And this is in their home. They actually allowed us to come into their home, and that's you giving a little brief introduction about what's going on, what is going to be going on in the future with the museum.
Thank you. A little background.
Mm-hmm.
When I was asked to do a residency at the museum, I really thought about it, and I thought about what I really wanted to do. And part of what I wanted to do was I wanted to study the museum collection and then take that apart and recreate new bodies of work based on images from the museum collection, using African Americans from the Greensburg community and immigrants from the Greensburg community. And the museum was incredibly happy and supportive and helpful in making this happen. So right now, this is the journey we're on with that. Starting next week, we will start shooting pieces. So, you'll have to check back on Instagram to catch up on those. But in the meantime, this is where we're at. Next slide. Ben, why don't you give us a little bit of what you're thinking and what's going on?
So I joined the project just about almost 2 weeks ago now, and we shot around downtown Greensburg. This was my first day with Pamela and Gavin. I believe is that the courthouse?
Yeah.
Courthouse, yeah.
Courthouse.
On Main Street. Yeah, actually, Pamela stopped in the middle of traffic, and I jumped out of the car to grab this shot. It was fun. I had two
Yeah.
cameras on me, and this is a new experience for me as well, and I'm really appreciative of it. It's been a lot of fun.
I'm seeing Greensburg in a whole different light. Thank you.
Yeah, this is my
Yeah.
first time in Greensburg as well, and I like shooting things with fresh eyes because once you get used to it, you don't see it the same way.
Exactly.
All right, next slide. We can keep the slides rolling until we said stop. So this is where we're downtown. Okay, hang on, slash back. This is downtown again. And the next slide is the church again.
Mm-hmm.
That's me explaining in church what's happening, what I'm doing. And the next slide is the barbershop comrades. And yeah, and this is the interiors of comrades. Pamela, do you want to talk a little bit about the history of comrades?
As I understand, what I was researching, I understand there's 3 shops. I know there's one in Greensburg and Irwin. I think there's one in Youngwood too. I might be mistaken on that. But the history of the barber shops, and generally speaking, that's like the hub of the Black community. I still remember my mother complaining to my father when I was younger, saying, Gene, why do you have to spend the whole day there? Well, when men go to a barber shop, they don't just engage in just getting their hair cut. They engage in talking about politics, talking about what's going on in the neighborhood. That's where a lot of things happen. A lot of things people do actually debate issues too as well. So it's a gathering place.
Well, especially what I've learned is, especially in communities such as Greensburg, where you don't have black professional, a lot of black professionals to look up to. The barbershop and the church becomes the community centers in ways that helps people to grow and to organize and to develop ideas and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, we have to give props to these guys. And that's downtown around the museum.
Right. Yeah.
That's, yeah. And now we're at the wig shop, the woman who does braiding.
That's Amy.
Amy, yes. That's Amy, yes.
Yeah.
This is Amy Shaw. Do you want to talk a little about Amy and what Amy does, Pamela?
Amy does techniques called braiding. She does, she can corn roll. She also does box braids. She does crocheting, and actually she did my hair. So yeah, she does a great job. She's originally from Nigeria. I remember talking about that. So we got to talking a little bit while she was doing my hair, and it's a nice place to go to get your hair done, and also to purchase hair to have your hair done too as well.
Right. Yeah. That's a very important thing, especially within the Black community for African American women and for women of color. Correct. Yeah. So this is part of the process of me casting, and the next steps now is to everyone from the casting. It's pulling that apart and putting the people within the situations to tell the stories and the narratives as I see them develop. And that's the Westmoreland and me heading into the Westmoreland. That's me with Mike Lonick. He's helping with props and sets design. And this is inside the museum We'll be taking you on a little tour to the bowels of the museum. I think I was explaining to Michael what I saw, what I was looking at in that portrait at that point. That's Penguin Court, where we will be shooting. That's where we'll be building our sets. That's Michael doing a little dance. And that is one of the pieces. That piece is called Death of Elaine. That's one of the pieces that I will be reinterpreting. So you'll have to stay tuned to see how I rework that piece and how it fits in today's story of the pandemic and the whole bit. So stay tuned, guys. That's another piece that I'm studying, actually. Coal miners, the opposite of coal miners will probably be the church, the Black church. So that's going to be an interesting take on that one also. So stay tuned. Me roaming the museum, explaining to Michael, I guess, my vision for Penguin Court. That's just laying out the boards, looking at the boards, looking at the Polaroids together. Figuring out what to go where furniture-wise, what kind of furniture. We've been shopping the museum collection for stuff, for art and furniture. That's a new piece from one of the new, from a new body of work at the museum. Inspiration. Me on the roof of the museum. Penguin Court. Love the panel. Mm-hmm. Michael and I with George Washington. Hello. Basically taking apart all the Polaroids and looking at them, figuring out what the stories are, what the stories are going to be, the narratives, that kind of thing. Okay, that was goofy. Yes, love Polaroid.
We took a lot that one day at the church, didn't we?
We took a lot of Polaroids. It's a lot of Polaroids.
Yes, indeed.
God, I look so serious there. All right, Ben, you have any anything you want to throw in there?
I'm not too sure. I'm enjoying listening to the commentary on it from your perspective.
Oh, there's commentary? I didn't see that.
No, your commentary.
Oh, my commentary.
Yeah.
I'm loving this frames. I'm loving. These are excellent shots, Ben.
Thank you.
And I just liked how, this is being documented step by step. And so that, we can, show everyone what's going on.
Well, I think it's important that people get to be a part of the production of it.
Absolutely.
I think that's very important that they get to see the behind the scenes, how things come together, how things fall apart, that kind of thing. I think that's very important. And this is Doug. This is Doug who's taking us through the bowels of the museum into the storage.
I'm taking that a lot of people have never seen this part of the museum before. So
Right.
This is a treat.
Right. I mean, a lot of people are never going to see this part of the museum.
Right.
Yeah, I've never seen where they keep all the storage in a museum. This was a first for me.
The first one I imagine for me, seeing all the the silver and the old toys and the pottery and the crystal, just all that stuff. It's amazing looking at, like shelves and shelves of stuff.
And all the wall cages that slide on tracks with all the paintings and artwork.
Yeah, coming and going, pulling out. I felt
massive.
like I had a little movie in there on that stuff.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these tracks were incredible.
That.
Yeah.
And speaking as an artist, seeing the linear quality in that shot, excellent. I love it.
There's a lot of stuff to look at.
Well, you have a lot to pull from, for inspiration.
Oh, yes. Yes. That's a great. I like that shot a lot where we were walking in the hallway. And I was like, I mean, those crates are like humongous.
Oh yeah, they've got to be like 6 foot something.
Right. They make us look so like dwarf. And Polaroids. I think what was great was meeting everyone and just getting their personalities through the Polaroid, seeing their personality, like even after meeting them and then looking at the Polaroids with you guys and still sensing their personalities and the feeling that, like.
Is that a process you normally do for stuff like this? You start with Polaroids, or is that specific to this project?
That's something that I used to do for commercial projects, actually. In my old life, we used to do castings for like different things, and so this is how we would cast. You'd go around and you meet people, and you just take and you'd get them to like get their waist and all their measurements and stuff like that, and then you'd figure out who to call back.
It's a super efficient idea too.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah.
Like keeping tangible records instead of shooting it all digitally, fishing through the digitals, printing them out.
And try to figure it out. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is perfect. This is so old school and it's great,
It fits really well with this.
And then to have all of these Polaroids to be in the show also, which is going to be amazing. Like, so all these people, how many like 70 or 100 people we've met or we're going to meet, like to be able to have them all still be in the show, that's going to be amazing. That's going to be incredible to see.
There we are, assembling everything.
Penguin Court. I just love those panels.
Massive.
Totally. Wow, my head looks so shiny there.
Okay, now I never saw this when you're putting them up on the board. Do you have an idea how you're going to display them when it comes to like the opening, or you're still putzing with that, figuring it out?
I think they're all going to be framed. We're going to figure out how to frame them.
Okay.
They're going to have their own space within the show.
All right.
Yeah. So, but for now, just so I can see everyone and I can pull for the different. This is how I sort of can look at everything, and that's in my studio.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Is that the entire collection of your Polaroids right there, or just a portion?
I think that's the entire. I think there's a few more. I think there's another box.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but I think that's a good chunk of it. But I just love everyone and their personalities and seeing the different people together.
Oh, wow. I like that shot.
That was our first day. Or my first day at the museum.
Yeah, that was Brian taking us to the. Yeah. Well, that is the end of our PowerPoint. So we have to create a conversation for the next 20 minutes, I guess, guys. So, yeah. Woohoo.
Do we have a question and answer or
Yes.
next Q&A?
Yes. Time for Q&A.
I'm back. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I was like this the whole time, like looking at all of those amazing photos.
Yeah.
Those photos were incredible. They were just incredible. I love them.
I mean, what I was thinking about as I was watching Ben, and Ben was editing and he was sending me stuff, all I kept thinking was, this is going to be really incredible, to like show in this manner, to show like how things are done and what we're really doing and the behind the scenes, and and it was, I think it's just a visual treat to be able to show people this, and and then we could use it for different things within promoting it. I mean, and that's 105 images of like 3,000.
It's like 1,600 right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like, cut. That's too much of me. Cut.
Yeah, I think we started with 330 and whittled it down to about 100.
Wow. Well, they're incredible. So, Gavin and Benjamin, how do you know each other? How did this collaboration come about?
Do you want me to say?
Yeah. You want to start?
Yeah, so I mean, I was familiar with his work through a mutual friend that had some of his art on his wall. But I followed him on Instagram and I just interacted with one of his posts, and then he messaged me saying he needed a photographer. And that was how it came to be initially.
So this was a recent meeting of the minds.
Yeah, probably not even 3 weeks ago.
Oh my gosh. And Pamela, I know you and Gavin also just met each other recently for this project. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I met him at the first casting call. One of the first casting calls, I think, was on May the 12th. And, I saw that there was, some people there and everything. And I started talking with him. And I told him flat out, I go, you're going to have to go where the people are, because they ain't coming there. I'm keeping it real.
So you really were instrumental in like helping Gavin get into the community that he wanted to work with in Greensburg. I mean, it's just incredible.
I think so. Yeah. But it's been such an honor and a privilege and such a treat. This is something I've always wanted to do, working in my field as an artist and creating things and seeing these visions come to life. And this is part of it, the process.
So along those lines, for you, Pamela, and for Benjamin, even in this short time that you've known Gavin, what really interests you most about his work and this project in particular?
Pamela, you can go first.
Oh, thank you, Ben.
You're welcome.
The fact that he combines photography with with paints and the traditional things, and it's like a collage, and the fact that it tells a story, whether it's political or something that's even whimsical. I mean, you're seeing things. No matter what you see on his images, you're seeing them almost for the first time again. So I can see more into it each time I look at his work. that's what you can tell when it's a good art. Okay, I'll say fantastic art. Okay.
Yeah, I've always been interested in his work since I've seen one of his portrait photos that was embellished with this flower on this woman's head.
Yeah.
I mean, it was incredible. And on this huge canvas, it might be 30 by 40, I think. And as a photographer, I'm like, I wonder what film stock he used. I wonder, what, if it is film, if it's digital. And just, what intrigued me is how he got from point A to B, taking such a cool portrait and then making it something incredibly unique. Because I usually stop at point A.
That's great. Gavin, can you talk a little bit about your work? I mean, of course, this project, you have a lot of collaborators, but has your previous work involved a lot of collaborators as well? And what are some of those collaborators beyond, Benjamin and Pamela? I know you have a whole lot of collaborators on this project, which is super cool. But could you just talk a little bit about like your history of working with collaborators and some other people on this project as well?
Well, when you work in the commercial field, you're always collaborating. You're working with hair, makeup stylists, you're working with food people, you're working with just like many different people. So it's a collaboration to make one photograph happen, or one image happen, and one commercial happen. So for me, it's always been about collaborating, and I love collaborating. I think when I came to Pittsburgh and I realized that a lot of artists here didn't understand how to collaborate, or didn't want to collaborate, or know how to collaborate, I think that was something that allowed me to just go off and create work on my own without collaborating back with people. So for example, like in the background, the three portraits in the back, those are me, actually. I'm the sitter, I'm the viewer, I'm everything. And that's because I was tired of like waiting or trying to find models and people to create things that I wanted to create, and then to like take them to the countryside and then have to explain to them what I want to do. And I'm like, okay, forget about this. And then they might not show up, and just like all this like stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I need to become my own Cindy Sherman. I need to become like my own. I need to just do this for myself. I need to just, take on that role. And I hated it at first, actually, because I really hate looking at photographs of myself. Until recently, I'm like, oh, that's not bad. I look like my grandfather. I'm like, okay, that's cool, But like for a very long time, I was like, who's that guy? But now it's something weird happened, a shift, and it's allowed me to do that. But getting back to the main question, what was the main question again?
Well, I kind of gave you a lot of questions, but I guess could you talk a little bit more about some of the other collaborators that are the many collaborators that are on this project right now, right. In addition to Benjamin and Pamela. And then after that, we do have a question from the chat too.
Awesome. It's interesting because I've never done a project like this for myself, this grand, on this scale. So I'm not only the photographer, but I'm the producer and I'm the director. And so I'm like everything, which is really weird at the same time, but it's really good, but it takes a lot of time. It's inspiring because I'm meeting people who are not the norms that you would just like link up with to collaborate. Like people would say, oh, go see da da da. And I'm like, I'm not interested in that. Maybe because they've been around a lot. Maybe they've been a part of the system for too long, or maybe their ideas are not fresh enough for me or edgy enough for me. When I saw Ben's work, it reminded me of this photographer Anton Corbin's work, it was like black and white, and he did this whole thing on like rock stars and Bono and what's the group? Bono's group called
U2.
U2, and like REM, like all these great rock stars and musicians, and there were these beautiful black and white images, and I was like, that's what I want. I wanted to feel very film noir. I wanted to have a very film noir look. It's a very like documented, very straight up. There's no no milky color, beautiful pinks and grays. It's black and white with a little grays in there. It's just like boom, and the point of view is just like straight on, and it was like we're taking no prisoners kind of thing, and so that's for Ben. And when I met Pamela, and Pamela said, you need to like actually come to us, and I was like, ooh, smack, smack, smack. Thank you. But she's right. I needed to go to the community. I needed to like find a community. And that's, an excellent, way to find a community, especially with a community that's so spread out, and so small, so yeah.
Well, we have a couple of questions in the chat. The first one is from Michelle Bagley. Thank you so much. And this one is for Benjamin. Did you shoot in color or just black and white?
So for this project, I shot digital. So technically it's in color, but I don't really, I just turn it right to black and white as soon as I get it on my computer. I try not to even look at it for too long in color because it can like make me not like an image. If I see, or it changes my point of view in the image if I see the colors too much. So I guess just black and white.
Great. And then we also have a question from Maggie Dempsey. Thank you so much for your question. This one's for Gavin. How and why did you choose the particular artworks from the museum's collection to be able to, recreate and reinterpret?
How and why? Death of Elaine, is just so grand. And it's one of the museums, I think the #1 painting in the museum. And I thought if I'm going to do something, it has to be big and it has to be grand. And I wanted this narrative to really sort of match that. Choosing the works was difficult at first. The works that I wanted to work off of. But as I went into the community and I met people within the community, that changed because, for example, there's this wonderful Indian family and there's this wonderful painting in the museum of these 3 people having Coca-Cola at a table. And I'm thinking of this really wonderful family. And I'm thinking oh my God, that's like the American dream. You know what I mean? Sitting at a table having Coca-Cola, that's like what everyone in in a third world country or in another country, it's like that's part of the American dream. I look for things that could tell stories that I can relate to, that I can either add things to. For example, there's the painting of all the women in church hats going to church. And it's a beautiful piece. It's stunning. How did our parents, or how did the women in our lives spend Easter Sunday for the past 2 years? In front of a monitor with friends, or at a table with missing people who were dying or sick, you know what I mean? So how do you sort of reinterpret that? How do we tell those stories? And how do we use what we have to tell those stories? How do we make the part of the museum collection fresh? How do we refresh it?
So this one is for, and Maggie said, thank you, Gavin.
Oh, you're welcome, Maggie.
So this question is for Gavin, but also Pamela, if you wanted to chime in as well. What inspires you, Gavin, about the Greensburg community, and what do you hope to convey to your audience about this community that Pamela has connected you with?
For me, growing up, I grew up in front of the. I'm incredibly lucky. I grew up in front of the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens, the Brooklyn Museum, Prospect Park. Those are three of the main. I think I'm forgetting something. It's around there. I grew up in this central hub in Brooklyn that was a cultural hub. And for me as a kid, like I would walk out the door of my grandparents' apartment and walk down the street and I'd be in the museum. Walk down the street further and I'd be in the library. Walk down the street further and I'd be in the park. Walk back home and I'd be like in the botanical gardens, which is in front of the house. And for me, it's like certain institutions has played like major roles in my life. For example, when I was moving to Pittsburgh, I went to the Brooklyn Museum and I sat there and I thought about it and I thought about, okay, what could go wrong? What could go right? It's like a major decision. When I was leaving Pittsburgh, I was in the Carnegie Museum, thinking about like, why was I leaving? What was I hoping to gain by leaving? And then when I was coming back, I was in the museum at Philadelphia, thinking about it, thinking like, what's the next step? So I think like a lot of major decisions in my life has been made at museums. And museums have always helped me to like sort of stay calm and safe in a way. And I think a lot of kids need that and could use that safe place to go to just, sort of chill out. Yeah. Pamela?
I know for myself, personal experience living in Greensburg, I didn't realize that there was so much to do until I saw it through your eyes, which was great. And the fact that as far as the museum is my son and I, we often have gone to museums together. And we love going to museums. We see the artwork, and we can engage in the artwork a lot. Sometimes it's not necessarily what we can relate to, but we choose to look at it through other people's eyes. So that's why we enjoy going to the museum, and we can get lost in the museum. I can spend days at a museum and see different things. And in fact, 1 year for my birthday, my son he actually took me to the I think it was the Andy Warhol Museum, and I just loved it. We both loved it. We went from floor to floor to floor, and we just enjoyed ourselves. And we'll go off and on, he'll go off one way, I'll go off another way. And we just engage in what's there. And we share with each other what we see. So it's really nice to have it.
That's really fun to see how, because you're a native of Greensburg. Have you lived in Greensburg your whole life, Pamela?
Born and raised. My father's from McKeesport. And my mother is from Hannistown. She was from Hannistown. She passed. So all her people were from Hannistown. They migrated from Alabama and settled in Hannistown. So there was 3 Black families in Hannistown. It was the Buggses and the Wimbushes, which was my mother's family, and the Skillings.
And you are more than just the connection to the community for Gavin. You are also an artist as well,
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your work as an artist?
Yeah, sure. My work is primarily abstract, but I do other things as well. I do sculptures. In fact, I'm known more for my sculptures now. It seems to be in the Pittsburgh area. They like the sculptures, so I'm going to pursue that more. I'm happy to say I won a scholarship to Touchstone, so I will be going not the next month, but the month after for a week, and I will be experimenting with clay and doing different things. So look forward to seeing some new pieces of mine. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing some new pieces of mine. I can't wait to get my hands on the clay again. That's my first love, clay. I remember my mother, I would play and make little mud pies, and I couldn't understand why some of the mud was hard and some of the mud was soft. And that was that Pennsylvania clay that we have here. And yeah, that's something my mother would always look at me, and she couldn't understand why I would play in the clay, but she encouraged me. She really encouraged me to be an artist.
That's amazing. I love that. So I guess this could sort of be for all of you. You know, we have our native Greensburg person. We have our people new to Greensburg. Benjamin's brand new to being introduced to Greensburg, even newer than Gavin. So I guess in your different times in Greensburg and working on this project with Gavin, what are some of like the highlights or surprises of your introductions to the city and the people that you've met so far?
Should I go first? Or for me, wow, people have been so welcoming. It's been amazing. Just meeting everyone and hearing stories and just watching people in the eye and just the stories, the narratives. That to me is, you know, the biggest thing. Yeah, Pamela.
I'm sorry, I was captivated by what you were saying. Can you repeat the question?
I guess I'm kind of playing off a little bit about how you were saying that going around with Gavin had you start to see some things in your own community, like in a new light. And were there any sort of highlights or surprises of the introductions that you made with Gavin, or sort of anything, you know, that even was surprising that maybe you didn't notice about your own community, or, you know, things along those lines, if any?
Well, the one thing that really struck me as being, I really was thrilled to see, was how intrigued people were. Once he told them, started talking about what he was doing, they were captivated. They wanted to know more, and they were excited about this. This is something very new and unique to this area, and they're waiting to see this come to light. So that's one of the things that I really that struck me, and I'm going to cherish remembering those moments and this aha moment, you know, especially with Mr. Moore. I think it's Lavon Moore from the Barber shop. Now, I watched how Gavin and he were engaging, and he shared with Gavin that he went to school for graphics. Remember, Gavin?
Yeah.
You remember?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it also, like, when I went to his Instagram page, you could see it in the way how he cut hair and the styles. And yeah, I mean, like, so there's, just because these guys are barbers, they're also artisans. You know, they've probably had careers in other things, and you know, and that helps inform their design sensibilities.
Indeed.
Any more questions?
Well, I think while we're waiting for some more questions to come in, maybe Benjamin, like some of your first impressions, recently coming to Greensburg of, I mean, I agree with Pamela, some of your photographs, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how is that like the same place I look at every day? And it just looks so stunning. So I'm curious about someone that's just shown up and is, literally looking through a lens and drawing this beauty out of different spaces that I think a lot of us who see them every day take for granted.
His fresh eyes, definitely.
So even though I'm new to Greensburg, I grew up in a small town. And I said to Gavin when I arrived, I was like, wow, this reminds me of home. I grew up in Morgantown, West Virginia. Mm-hmm. And after living the last 6 years in Pittsburgh and Brooklyn, it was it was like visiting home. And, it's such beautiful architecture, something I noticed immediately. Pam made me jump out of the car, take that picture of the dome. And I mean, the courthouse is beautiful, the bridge right near the museum. I mean, it is a beautiful landscape, but maybe that's because we got to see it from a bird's eye, up on the top of the museum. But something I noticed is just the community there. It reminded me of home.
I mean, it has a very, let's not forget, it's an incredibly, it's in the middle of a very red, it's like this little blue spot in this middle of red. So it's something that we kind of do take for granted, but not take for granted. Yeah, it does serve its purpose. For me, why I wanted to do, one of the questions you asked before was like why I wanted to do this project, which I missed, along with all the other answers. I always wondered what it would be like to do a project like this in a community like this, and I would always wonder when the Westmoreland came to me and asked me if I wanted to do a residency. And I said, yes, but I said, these are my requirements. This is what I want to do. I was thinking about the folks who live in that community and how they exist. And it's not just that community. There's like hundreds of other communities around America that has to exist. How do we exist in these incredibly tight, wonged, moments and non-pleasures and with everything that's happening in the world? How do we exist in this? How do you tell a story about the people who live in these communities, and how do you help uplift these communities, and how do you help tell stories that can leave an impression on other kids who have never seen themselves in walls in museums or estates or things that, I mean, I could go on with the politics of that, but how do we help uplift the next generation to let them know that they belong? It's not just a museum for white kids, but it's a museum for everyone. How do we help break those barriers? How do we bring those kids to the table? How do we open the doors for those kids? So I think this is part of it. This is part of what I wanted to do as an artist, is how do I open the door for a community to have a conversation with a museum, and a museum to have a conversation with a community that maybe we both couldn't have access to without a middleman or middlemen. And maybe the collaborators are the middlemen to make that connection happen, or those connections happen. So
it's your photography that's doing it. You are the middleman. You are bringing us together.
It's a combination of things. It's a combination of many things. It's a combination of being able to have a vision and being able to bring that vision to fruition, and showing up, actually showing up and doing the hard work, not just saying I'm going to do the work and not showing up, but showing up and being there and going to church and meeting the folks at the church and meeting the folks at the barbershop, not just showing up once, but showing up many times. You know, that's part of the conversation.
I agree. Yes.
So, and there's more collaborators also. We'll probably do another one of these in September before or two. And there'll be more collaborators you'll be meeting along the way. For now, this is a little part of the group, and you'll be meeting the rest sooner or later. And I want to thank everyone. This has been like such an incredible journey. It's not over yet. We still have like a year to go before the show. And we're shooting starting next week. Pamela, you've got a lot of work to do. What are you, man?
Okay.
And everyone else. Yeah.
Well,
So,
this is an excellent segue. We did get another question in the chat, so we have time for one or two more questions. Again, thank you, Maggie Dempsey. This is a great question. Will the body of work that Gavin is creating be displayed anywhere in the future where the public will be able to see it?
Yes. Fall 2022. For 3 months, we'll be in parts of the museum. I don't know which parts yet, but I'm sure Anne and Barbara and Doug and everyone else who is helping to make this happen is trying to figure out what we're going to do once we see all the fabulous images. We're going to, we'll see. You'll see. It's going to be big. At the museum, 2022. That's all I'm going to say.
That's great. And we have a really nice comment by Andrew Thornton, who lives in my neighborhood in Ligonier. Hey, Andrew. I'll give a shout out to his shop, Allegory Gallery, here in Ligonier. He wrote, "I love how the conversation started paying homage to the diverse background of the region and where the museum is. What is exciting to me is seeing how this new body of work is ushering in the future."
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Yes. It is. And you can come by anytime to the museum to chat. And it is about basically the future. We do have to think about the future, and Black and brown skinned kids and immigrant kids are the future of America. The things we really don't talk about, immigrants. My parents are immigrants, and they came to America in the 70s. And I am so proud of those guys. They've worked so hard to get their family and their kids where we are today. But immigrants are the hardest working people in America. And we get the worst treatment. We get the worst backlash from everything. We're the least respected in certain aspects. But when you go to Disneyland, think about this. Think about the Mexican woman or the Spanish woman who's cleaning your bathroom every time you leave your hotel room. Think about her for a second. Think about where that money she is working so hard to send back to her kids or grandkids. Just think about that for a second, and that's it. But thank you so much. I really appreciate this moment.
Well, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you. This has just been a wonderful program. We're just about out of time. So thank you so much again. And thank you all of you who are viewing us this evening. And thank you to future viewers, because this will live on our YouTube channel. And I just want to quickly be able to let everybody know that next week we have another virtual program on June 30th. It'll be at 7 p.m. as well. And it is in conversation with Richard Misrock and Barbara Jones. Richard Misrock is the photographer, the landscape photographer for our current exhibition, Border Cantos Sonic Border. So thank you all again, Gavin, Benjamin, and Pamela, for your amazing work and collaboration. And everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.